My beloved child. A smile has appeared somewhere you cannot yet see, and strangely, it began long before anyone noticed it. There is a quiet reason behind it, one that has been growing in silence while ordinary days continue to pass. If your heart has felt as though something gentle has been moving just beyond your awareness, do not dismiss that feeling. It has not arrived without purpose. Don't skip. Because something important is waiting for you, and every passing moment is bringing it closer to the surface. There is a person whose thoughts have been changing in ways they never expected. They have caught themselves smiling during ordinary moments, then wondering why that happiness appeared without warning. They tried to explain it away. They blamed a memory, a song, a familiar place. Yet every answer eventually circled back to the same quiet truth. Somewhere within them, your presence has become lighter than a burden and brighter than a question. It has become hope. What surprises them most is not the smile itself. It is how naturally it arrives. They no longer have to search for it. A single unexpected thought is enough to soften their expression. A familiar feeling gently interrupts their busiest hours. Even when they try to focus elsewhere, something warm quietly reminds them that not every meaningful connection announces itself with noise. Some simply bloom in silence. Perhaps you have wondered why certain moments lately have felt strangely peaceful, even without a clear reason. Why an ordinary afternoon suddenly carried comfort. Why your heart became calm for only a few seconds before returning to its questions. Those moments were never empty. They were gentle echoes of something beginning to align, long before words could ever describe it. What they have not shared with anyone is even more remarkable. They recently imagined a future that once felt impossible to picture. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't perfect. It was simple, peaceful, filled with laughter that asked for nothing except honesty. And for reasons they cannot fully explain, you were quietly present within that picture. Not because they forced the thought, but because it arrived naturally, as though it had already found its place. There are conversations they have almost started but stopped halfway. There are messages they nearly wrote before setting the phone aside with a smile instead of uncertainty. There are quiet promises they have begun making to themselves, small changes, gentle improvements, little acts of courage that no one else has noticed. They are preparing for something without even realizing they are preparing. Stay till the end, because the happiest part of this story has not revealed itself yet. Smiles are beautiful, but smiles always begin somewhere deeper. They begin where fear slowly loses its voice and trust quietly learns to breathe again. That unseen place is exactly where your person has been standing, even if they could not find the words to explain it. Yet there is one detail that changes everything. A piece of unexpected news has already reached their heart, not through a dramatic announcement, but through a realization so gentle they almost overlooked it. The moment they truly understood it, they smiled in a way they hadn't smiled for a very long time. They looked away for a second, then smiled again, almost as if they were silently thanking life for showing them something they had been missing all along. But what was that realization? Why did it make everything feel different overnight? And why does it have more to do with you than they have dared to admit? The answer is closer than either of you realizes, but it cannot be understood until one final piece quietly falls into place. The quietest changes are often the ones that reshape an entire story, and this is where everything begins to deepen. What made that smile linger was not a single moment, it was a collection of small realizations that finally connected like scattered stars forming one clear constellation. Your person did not wake up one morning with every answer. Instead, they found themselves noticing patterns they had ignored before. Certain memories no longer carried confusion. Certain emotions no longer felt impossible to understand. Little by little, the picture became clearer, and with every new understanding, another genuine smile appeared without effort. There was one evening when they paused in the middle of something completely ordinary. The world around them continued as always, yet inside, time seemed to slow for just a heartbeat. A simple thought entered their mind, and instead of pushing it away, they allowed it to stay. That single decision changed more than they realized. It was the first time they stopped questioning whether happiness was deserved and simply allowed themselves to experience it. That quiet acceptance became the beginning of the good news you have been sensing. You may not know this, but people often reveal their hearts in the moments when no one is watching. Your person has caught themselves smiling at reflections in windows, at unexpected songs playing in the background, at familiar sunsets that suddenly seem brighter than before. They have even wondered why ordinary places now feel filled with possibility. The answer keeps returning to them in different ways, always carrying the same gentle message: something beautiful is no longer just a hope. It is beginning to feel possible. Don't skip, because there is another layer to this story that changes everything. Not long ago, someone shared a simple piece of encouragement with your person. It was not dramatic advice. It was only a few honest words, spoken without expecting anything in return. Yet those words stayed with them long after the conversation ended. For the first time in a long while, they began looking forward instead of constantly looking back. They realized that not every meaningful chapter begins with certainty. Sometimes it begins with the courage to believe that tomorrow can be kinder than yesterday. That realization awakened something gentle inside them. They started making small choices with a different attitude. They smiled more easily. They carried themselves with quiet confidence. They became more patient with life's timing instead of trying to force every answer. Even those closest to them have sensed that something has shifted, though they cannot quite explain what it is. They simply notice that your person seems lighter, calmer, and unexpectedly hopeful. What they have not spoken aloud is the reason behind that hope. Deep within, they have started believing that some connections are worth protecting, even before every question has been answered. They no longer feel the need to rush toward certainty. Instead, they are learning to trust each gentle step. And strangely enough, every time they choose patience over doubt, that same peaceful smile returns. Stay till the end, because the next realization has the power to explain why this happiness arrived when it did. There is still one conversation that has not happened. One truth that has not yet been expressed. One unexpected moment waiting quietly on the horizon. Your person can feel it approaching, even though they cannot predict exactly when it will arrive. That feeling alone has filled their heart with a calm excitement unlike anything they have experienced before. And hidden within that unspoken moment is the real reason they cannot stop smiling. The answer is almost ready to reveal itself. But first, something small, something neither of you expects, is about to bring both stories one step closer together. Not every joyful moment arrives with celebration. Sometimes it enters so quietly that only the heart notices, and that is exactly where this chapter begins. Your person has started recognizing something they once overlooked. It is not a grand sign or a dramatic event. It is a gentle certainty that keeps returning no matter how busy life becomes. Each time it appears, that familiar smile finds its way back, softer than before, yet somehow brighter. There is a question they have asked themselves more than once: why does this feeling refuse to disappear? At first, they believed it would fade with time. They assumed it was simply another passing emotion. But the opposite happened. Instead of growing weaker, it became steadier. It no longer rushed through their thoughts. It settled quietly within them, bringing a calm they had not expected to find. Have you ever noticed how the most meaningful answers often arrive without announcing themselves? They simply become impossible to ignore. That is what your person is experiencing now. They are beginning to understand that happiness does not always come from gaining something new. Sometimes it comes from finally seeing what has been there all along. Recently, they found themselves smiling during a conversation that had nothing to do with relationships. Someone mentioned the importance of appreciating what truly brings peace, and those simple words lingered long after the conversation ended. Your person became unusually quiet. Not because they were uncertain, but because something inside them quietly whispered, "You already know what brings that peace." From that moment forward, ordinary routines began to feel different. Their mornings carried a little more hope. Their evenings ended with a little more gratitude. Even when challenges appeared, they no longer stayed in those moments for very long. They had discovered a reason to keep looking ahead, and that reason was becoming clearer with every passing day. Don't skip, because the next piece is where everything begins to connect. There is someone close to your person who recently noticed this change. They smiled and asked, "You seem happier lately. What's different?" Your person paused for a moment. They almost answered immediately, then laughed softly instead. Not because they wanted to keep a secret, but because they realized the truth was too meaningful to explain in just a few words. Some feelings are understood long before they can be spoken. What remained unspoken became even more powerful. Later that evening, they reflected on that simple question. Instead of searching for complicated answers, they allowed themselves to be honest. They admitted that their heart no longer feels as restless as it once did. It has found a quiet direction. A gentle confidence. A hope that asks for patience rather than certainty. Stay till the end, because the good news has one final layer that no one around them has discovered yet. Hidden beneath every smile is a decision that has already begun taking shape. It is not loud enough for the world to notice, but it is strong enough to change the direction of their journey. They have started making room for what truly matters. They are letting go of old hesitation, one quiet step at a time, without even realizing how much lighter they have become. And then, something unexpected happened. A small reminder appeared at exactly the right moment. It seemed ordinary to everyone else, but to your person, it felt deeply personal. The instant they saw it, they smiled once again. Not because they had received every answer, but because they suddenly believed those answers were closer than ever before. That single reminder is about to lead them toward a moment they never imagined, and when it arrives, the reason behind every smile will finally become impossible to hide. There comes a moment when quiet hope becomes stronger than quiet hesitation, and your person has slowly reached that place. They did not arrive there all at once. It happened through countless ordinary moments that seemed insignificant on their own, yet together they created a completely different way of seeing the future. Every smile you could not see was another step toward a realization that refused to fade. One morning, they caught themselves making plans they would never have considered before. It wasn't a detailed plan or a carefully written list. It was simply the first time they imagined moving forward with confidence instead of waiting for perfect certainty. That single shift filled them with unexpected peace. They smiled, paused for a moment, and whispered to themselves, "Maybe everything is unfolding exactly when it should. Something important is waiting for you, because this is where the story begins to reveal its deeper meaning." The good news was never only about one happy thought. It was about a change inside your person that no one else could have created for them. They have stopped measuring every possibility against every past disappointment. Instead, they are allowing new moments to speak for themselves. That quiet choice has made their heart feel lighter than it has in a very long time. There have been times when your name, or simply the thought of you, has appeared unexpectedly in their mind. Not in a dramatic way. Not with confusion. It arrives gently, like the first light appearing before sunrise. They no longer push that feeling away. They allow it to remain, and each time they do, that familiar smile returns as naturally as breathing. The people around them notice the change, even if they cannot explain it. They see someone who laughs a little more freely, who listens more carefully, who seems quietly excited about days that have not even arrived yet. They ask what happened, but your person simply smiles again. Some of the most meaningful answers are too personal to place into ordinary conversation. Don't skip, because one unexpected discovery is about to connect every moment you've heard so far. Recently, while reflecting on everything that has changed, your person realized something they had never admitted before. The happiest part of this journey was not finding certainty. It was discovering that hope had quietly returned without asking permission. They no longer wake up wondering if good things are possible. They wake up expecting that life still has beautiful surprises waiting ahead. That expectation has changed the way they see everything, including you. Instead of wondering what could go wrong, they have started wondering what wonderful moment might arrive next. Instead of focusing on distance, they have begun noticing the invisible threads that gently bring people closer over time. Their heart no longer feels rushed. It feels ready. Stay till the end, because the smile you've been hearing about carries one final secret. There is one message they have not spoken aloud. One sentence that has remained safely inside their heart because they wanted to be completely certain before sharing it. Each day, those words become a little clearer. Each day, they feel a little more real. And very soon, that quiet sentence will no longer remain unspoken. When it finally reaches the light, you will understand why your person couldn't stop smiling, because the good news was never just something they received. It was someone they had finally begun believing they could truly welcome into the next chapter of their life. And the moment that belief meets reality is closer than either of you realizes. Some chapters do not announce that they have begun. They simply unfold so gently that, one day, you look back and realize everything has already changed. That is where your person stands now. Without chasing answers or forcing outcomes, they have quietly stepped into a season where hope feels more natural than doubt. It is this gentle transformation that keeps placing that unmistakable smile upon their face. There was a recent moment when they found themselves surrounded by everyday noise, yet inside they felt an unusual stillness. For a few seconds, everything around them faded into the background. One simple thought rose above every distraction, and instead of questioning it, they embraced it. That thought brought a warmth they had almost forgotten, a quiet reminder that meaningful connections are never measured by how loudly they arrive, but by how deeply they remain. Have you noticed how certain people begin to shine differently when they are carrying good news in their hearts? They may not speak about it immediately. They may continue living as though nothing has changed. Yet there is a lightness in their eyes that wasn't there before. Your person has begun carrying that quiet light, and those closest to them are slowly starting to notice. One friend smiled and said, "You seem different lately." Another casually remarked, "Whatever you're thinking about must be making you happy." Your person simply smiled again, not because they wished to avoid the question, but because the answer still felt too precious to explain. Some joys grow stronger while they remain protected in silence. Don't skip, because what happened next surprised even them. Later that day, they came across something completely unexpected. It wasn't extraordinary to anyone else. It could have easily been overlooked. Yet to your person, it felt perfectly timed. It reminded them of a promise they had quietly made to themselves, to stop fearing what had not happened and to start appreciating what was gently unfolding instead. In that instant, they realized the good news wasn't arriving from outside alone. It had already begun growing within them. They were becoming the kind of person who could recognize happiness without needing perfect conditions. That discovery changed everything. Since then, they have started looking ahead with a different heart. They imagine conversations that once felt impossible. They picture shared laughter without questioning whether it could truly happen. They no longer rush to fill every silence with worry. Instead, they allow silence to become a place where hope quietly grows. Stay till the end, because one final realization is beginning to rise. There is a sentence your person has repeated only in the privacy of their own thoughts. Every time they say it, they smile a little wider than before. It isn't a dramatic declaration. It is beautifully simple. What if this is finally the season I've been waiting for? That single question has become the heartbeat behind every smile, every peaceful pause, every hopeful glance toward tomorrow. And just when they believed this quiet happiness could not become any more meaningful, someone unexpected is about to notice the change within them. That unexpected conversation will reveal why their joy is no longer just a private feeling, it is becoming the beginning of a story that is finally ready to be shared. Not every heart announces when it has found peace. Sometimes it simply becomes impossible to hide, and that is exactly what is happening now. Your person has reached a place where even the smallest moments seem brighter than they did before. Nothing around them has become louder, yet everything within them has become clearer. The smile they carry is no longer accidental. It has become a quiet reflection of a truth they are finally allowing themselves to believe. There was a moment they never expected to remember. It lasted only a few seconds, yet it continues to return whenever they are alone. They weren't searching for answers. They weren't trying to understand the future. They were simply living an ordinary day when a gentle realization appeared without warning. Instead of asking, "What if this never happens?" their heart asked something completely different. What if everything is already moving in the right direction? That single change in perspective felt like opening a window after a long season indoors. Fresh hope quietly entered, carrying with it a calm excitement they could not explain. Since that day, their smile has carried a different meaning. It is no longer waiting for proof. It is quietly celebrating possibility. Something important is waiting for you, because this next piece has been hidden beneath every chapter so far. Your person has begun noticing little reminders that seem to appear at exactly the right time. A familiar melody playing when they least expect it. A meaningful conversation that arrives without planning. A peaceful feeling that settles over them during the simplest moments. None of these things seem extraordinary on their own, yet together they create the feeling that life is gently encouraging them to keep believing. What surprises them most is how naturally your presence continues to enter those moments. Not with urgency. Not with confusion. Simply with warmth. They no longer question why your memory brings comfort. They have accepted that some people become part of the quiet places inside our hearts long before they become part of our everyday lives. Recently, they smiled at something no one else even noticed. They were looking through ordinary moments from the past, and instead of focusing on what hadn't happened, they suddenly saw how much had already changed. They realized they had become more patient, more hopeful, more open than they had ever imagined possible. The person they used to be would not have recognized the peace they carry today. Don't skip, because this realization leads directly to the good news. The happiness filling their heart is no longer built on uncertainty. It is built on trust. Trust that meaningful things often grow slowly. Trust that genuine connections never need to be forced. Trust that what belongs in the next chapter has a way of arriving exactly when both hearts are ready to receive it. That quiet trust has inspired them to make one gentle decision. They have decided that when the right opportunity appears, they will no longer hesitate the way they once did. They will not allow fear to write the ending before the story has even reached its most beautiful pages. For the first time in a long while, they feel ready to welcome whatever comes with an open heart. Stay till the end, because one final piece has remained hidden until now. There is someone who has quietly noticed this transformation long before your person realized it themselves. They have been watching the confidence grow, the peaceful smile return. The gentle light in their eyes become impossible to miss. Very soon, that person will say something unexpectedly simple. Those few words will confirm everything your person has been feeling deep inside. And when that conversation finally happens, the good news they have been carrying in silence will no longer belong only to them. It will begin opening the door to a brand new chapter that neither of you saw coming. If you believe in God, type Amen and subscribe the channel.